denies all of these claims.
The Wuhan Institute of Virology, Chinese Academy of Sciences, issued a relevant statement on March 23rd this year. It stated that before December 30, 2019, coronavirus was not contracted at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Until now, there has been zero infection of staff and postgraduate students at the institute.
So if nobody fell ill at the Wuhan lab, why is China not sharing data from there? What is it hiding in this lab? Remember, the WHO team had asked for raw data from the Wuhan laboratory and China refused. Wuhan Institute of Virology. Data that specifically talks about its extensive reach. He's not convinced that the virus is natural and that he does not rule out it, have once again called for a new investigation.
No, I'm not. What went on in China until we find out, to the best of our ability, exactly what happened. Certainly, the people who've investigated say it likely was the emergence from an animal reservoir that then infected individuals, but it could have been something else, and we need to find that out.
This is interesting because Dr. Fauci himself is under fire for his alleged links with this lab, the Wuhan lab. Recently, he was grilled by an American lawmaker. That's because American grant money ended up sponsoring research at the Wuhan laboratory. And this was something that Fauci had authorized. Reports say that America's National Institute of Health, NIH, gave more than $3 million over 6 years to an organization called the EcoHealth Alliance. The funding was to study different coronaviruses from bats. And reports say out of the $3.7 million for this research, EcoHealth Alliance gave $600,000 to the Wuhan laboratory, the one in China. And Dr. Fauci was asked if this funding was for the gain of function research, meaning the kind of research where you deliberately create dangerous variants of viruses. And Fauci denied all of this. And now he says that he's not convinced that the virus is natural. This lab theory has been extremely controversial. There is no proof yet, but it keeps coming back to life. Remember, the WHO team had dismissed it outright. But in a rare act of dissent, WHO Director General Dr. Tedros refused to accept that conclusion. And he said that more research was needed to dismiss the lab theory. So it seems that everyone agrees that more research and more investigation is needed into this. The question is, who is going to do it? And there are more questions. What was it? Bats, minks, frozen meat, an accidental lab leak 18 months into the pandemic. We still don't have the answers. The WHO promised to find us an answer, but it has only added to the confusion. On the 19th of May 2020, the global health body launched an investigation, a probe to trace the origins of this virus. In the months that followed, the WHO presented many hypotheses, supported them with evidence, but then went on to counter each one of them. It's been a never-ending cycle of claims and counterclaims. And now the cycle has entered another phase. As I speak, the global health body is meeting once again. Health ministers from at least 194 states are attending the WHO's annual World Health Assembly. This meeting is expected to focus on pandemic reforms. But what about the origins of the pandemic? Can you reform without fixing accountability? Can you fix a problem without tracking its source? What did the WHO say today, and what has it done in the last 18 months? Here's a report.
And the evidence we have from the sequencing and from all that we have been advised is the virus itself is of natural origin.
I thank Member States for adopting the resolution which calls for an independent and comprehensive evaluation of the international response including but not limited to WHO's performance. WHO is committed to do everything it can based on science and solutions to find the origin. Over the past 24 hours, members of the international scientific team on COVID-19 virus origins began traveling from their home countries to China. But I have been in contact with senior Chinese officials, and I have once again made it clear that the mission is a priority for WHO and the international team. I wish to confirm that all hypotheses remain open and require further analysis and studies. We have also said that this mission would not find all the answers, but it has added important information that takes us closer to understanding the origins of the virus. For now, all hypotheses will be on the table and will need further study. Thank you.
Hypotheses and promises. That's all the WHO has to offer, 12 months after it launched a probe into the origins of this virus. The story begins in May 2020, when WHO member states agreed to investigate where this virus came from. The motion was co-sponsored by 137 countries. The idea was to conduct an independent investigation, yet the WHO dealt on China's terms. Throughout 2020, the health body couldn't even enter China.
Today, we learned that Chinese officials have not yet finalized the necessary permissions for the team's arrival in China.
It was only in January 2021 that a team of 10 researchers with expertise in virology traveled to Wuhan. They visited hospitals that treated some of the first patients, the infamous seafood market where the virus was first detected, and the Center of Disease Control in Wuhan. Cameras followed these investigators everywhere they went. The evidence they relied on was given by Chinese officials. Beijing turned the entire WHO probe into a charade. The WHO complied, and the result was this.
The findings suggest that the laboratory incident hypothesis is extremely unlikely and to explain the introduction of the virus into the human population. We did not find evidence of large outbreaks that could be related to cases of COVID-19 prior to December 19 in Wuhan or elsewhere.
A few weeks later, the WHO published a written report of these findings. They failed to answer all questions. Why did the virus jump directly from an animal to human? The WHO said it was possible. Did the virus jump from one animal to another and then to humans? The WHO said it was possible. Did the virus spread from cold food supplies? Again, the WHO said it was possible. The health body left every hypothesis open. Only the lab leak theory was declared extremely unlikely. Now, findings shared by the US intelligence community have given a new life to this theory. Their reports claims that researchers at China's Wuhan Institute of Virology fell sick as early as November 2019. This disclosure comes amidst the ongoing World Health Assembly. But world leaders are not discussing the origins this year. They're busy discussing reforms.
Obviously, the Americans don't trust Afghans, and they don't want us to use this stuff and make progress. What they are doing is betraying the Afghans.
Fair and equitable distribution of vaccines.
The ongoing vaccine crisis is a scandalous inequity that's perpetuating the pandemic.
And ideas to end the pandemic.
I urge you to take the bold decisions necessary to end this pandemic and build safe, healthy communities and societies for the future.
The question of where the virus came from has been brushed aside. Bureau Report, we own. World is One.
The World Health Organization is a failed institution, but we cannot let it remain like that. Public health is now linked to everything, our economy, our national security, even our politics. This pandemic is proof of that. So reforming the World Health Organization is top priority. But where do we start? At the World Health Assembly. This is the council that governs the WHO. They set the policy, they elect the Director General, and they approve the budget. Real power lies with this council. Unfortunately, the real problem also lies with them. The 74th World Health Assembly kicked off today. All 194 members were in attendance. This is being billed as the most consequential meeting on public health. Seeing what happened last year, that's the right assessment. This is the chance to reform the World Health Organization for a complete cultural revamp at the top, to seek accountability from the leadership, and to release the WHO from China's influence. But even before the assembly convened, we got a taste of the WHO's politics. One country was missing from the invitation list, a country that first warned the WHO about the pandemic in December 2019, a country that crushed the pandemic, a country that donated masks and PPE kits to the world, good ones, not the faulty kind that China sent. We are talking about Taiwan. Once again, the World Health Organization has overlooked them. And this time, we have to ask, what else could the world have done? Every major country was campaigning for their inclusion. This is what the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said earlier this month, and I'm quoting, "There is no reasonable justification for Taiwan's continued exclusion from this forum, and the United States calls upon WHO Director General to invite Taiwan to participate as an observer at the World Health Assembly." That was a direct appeal from America's most powerful diplomat to Dr. Tedros, an appeal from the WHO's largest donor. It is difficult to imagine that he did not see the appeal. So why was Taiwan not invited? Because Dr. Tedros simply ignored it. For him, the orders from Beijing are more important. It wasn't just the United States, by the way, that was pushing Taiwan's case. Take a look at this campaign video. It was published by IPAC, Inter-Parliamentary Alliance on China. 15 lawmakers from Australia, Europe, New Zealand, North America launched the hashtag Let Taiwan Help. Even the G7 foreign ministers called for Taiwan's participation. They said the international community would benefit from Taiwan's experience. All this international support, and still, Taiwan did not get an invite. We all know why, because China blocked it. For Beijing, Taiwan is an estranged province, a territory that will one day return to mainland China. But the fact is, Taiwan is a full-fledged democracy. They have elections, they have an army, they're everything that China is not. The One China policy is losing credibility by the day, but Beijing keeps hanging on to it. This is what their foreign ministry spokesman said today, and I'm quoting, this was on Friday in fact, "To safeguard its sovereignty and territorial integrity, China cannot agree to Taiwan region's participation in the upcoming session of the World Health Assembly." China ordered and Dr. Tedros followed. In fact, he went a step ahead. Today, a special report was tabled at the World Health Assembly. It is called, in fact, COVID-19 Make It the Last Pandemic. Taiwan's Centers for Disease Control featured on 2 pages. But the agency was identified as Centers for Disease Control Taiwan. Taiwan's foreign minister spotted this and he asked the WHO to correct this error and republish. Because the WHO is indifferent to Taiwan's interests. It is indifferent to the health and the health rights of 23.5 million people who call Taiwan their home. This anger was reflected in their government statement. As a professional international health body, the World Health Organization should serve the health and welfare of all humanity and not capitulate to the political interests of a certain member. You would imagine a public health body will be too busy for petty politics, especially during a pandemic, but that's not the case for the World Health Organization. So what's the way out? If the World Health Assembly is the problem, it is also the solution. There are 194 members in the WHO. If a majority of them pass a resolution, they can invite Taiwan, whether Dr. Tedros wants to or not. The second thing they can do is overhaul the agency. Dr. Tedros wants a second term. The Assembly can deny him that opportunity. The WHO needs fresh blood, new leaders and experts who read scientific studies, not